I cannot escape, and I'm not here to be a preacher, and I'm not even sure I have clarity, but I just can't escape that there's something deep and spiritual that is going on in each and every one of us individually, but as a nation as a whole, and perhaps as a civilization as a whole, the West. There's something deep and spiritual going on that has forced or allowed people to lose sight of really easy bars and hurdles to clear, and that's the ability to discern good from evil.
Every time I think I'm emerging from my sorrow and anger about my friend Charlie Kirk's assassination, I see one of those clips, or one of my kids, the ages of, your 17-year-old, who are all fans of Charlie, will send one to me, and they both, the sorrow and the anger, just sort of bubble back up. I mean, all of us at Heritage are feeling that. And then I take a step back, not even necessarily, Will, as the president of Heritage, as, a purported policy leader, but just as a dad, a husband, a regular guy. And I realize, oh man, I have seen this for 25 years. You will remember that I call myself a recovering academic. When I finished at the University of Texas, our shared alma mater, I was a young history professor at a public university in the Southwest. Most of my colleagues were good people. They were, sort of lunatics when it came to politics. But a few of them were really crazy when it came to understanding morality, when it came to understanding what they would call tolerance. And what has happened, to cut to the chase here, is that over a generation, that word tolerance has emerged into something that is totalitarian. That's a weird word to use for this assassin, Tyler Robinson, but he and his partner and all of those lunatics on that Discord network and the larger network of trans activists I've taken to calling trans Tifa are lunatics. Their activity is demonic. And we have to ask the question, what happened in Tyler's life, but also, to your point, what have we done wrong as a society in America that has allowed this to happen? And the start of the answer to that question is that we have been preaching tolerance when we should have been preaching truth. To love our adversaries so much, which is our gospel commission, that we would be willing to speak truth to their face in charity, knowing that every human person is created equally in the eyes of God, but also to fight so much, as Charlie personified, that we're not going to give an inch. The time has come, my friend, to sum up here, that we must fight. I mean that obviously rhetorically, but we have to fight for this country, for truth, and for Charlie's legacy.
You're so right, and you're so right to invoke Charlie as the perfect avatar of this. We have done this thing, and it's happened over a matter of generations, of to be distilled into "don't judge me, bro," and judgment became the most uncool thing that you could do to another. I'm a Gen Xer, and really the judgmental guy, or the judgmental adult figure, is the ultimate and uncool, and also unkind, painted as mean. When in truth, again, I think in the knowledge of the spiritual warfare, judgment is discernment, and discernment is health, and health is love. What I mean by that is, you judge. Whether or not you want to admit it or not, you judge all day long. It's what we do. We judge what to eat and what not to eat, what smells rotten and what smells fresh. And we discern. And we have somehow decided that in the culture, we have a need to set aside discernment and judgment because they're seen as mean. And then that's extrapolated into hatred. And that's their accusations of everyone who they disagree with. They're full of hate. But the truth is, as Charlie would do, talk to someone and say to their face, hey, I think the path that you're going down is unhealthy. I think you should talk to someone about your mental health. I don't think you should pump your body full of drugs. And Charlie was not I'm not going to candy coat it. Charlie's put it bluntly and logically and aggressively, but he put it truthfully to their face. And I think we have to revisit, that actually is an act of love.
It's the greatest act of love. It's the greatest act of love to someone we are related to. By definition, we do love. It's the greatest act of love, as Charlie witnessed hundreds, if not a few thousand times, to strangers who were just filled with hatred for him. Evidenced tragically by what happened a week ago. And ultimately, the question that I get asked all the time, you certainly do, Will, is what can we do about this? And the first thing is what you've emphasized in today's show, and that is we have to have the courage, the discernment, as you say, to speak truth. That doesn't mean we need to be ugly. It certainly doesn't mean we're going to match the radical left's violence with violence from our side. What it does mean is we have to do a much better job than we have done the last generation during our respective lifetimes as Generation Xers in saying, forget this tolerance BS. Forget tolerance. That's not what the left meant by tolerance. All they meant by tolerance is they want to edge out those of us who actually understand what truth is. We're imperfect, obviously, we know that, but we got to summon the courage to convince people one by one that it is a sick, sick practice when a young man or a young woman comes to us and says, I want to be a different sex. And it's even worse, it's even more sick that thousands of physicians are willing to do that surgery. And it's even more sick that people defend that. And therefore, we get to the greatest sickness, which is that pastors, doctors, professors, teachers celebrate the assassination of a totally innocent, good man for doing what? For saying, I want to speak the truth, but I'm going to do so in a way in the greatest form of charity, which is to try to convince you logically that this path is bad for you. I'm just letting you know, Will, to tell you something you probably knew about Heritage already. We're done with this crap. Completely. If people thought that we were courageous, heroic, whatever it is, we just do our jobs here, the line is in the sand. We're going to honor the spirit of our fallen friend Charlie. And I can tell you that any policymaker in Washington, D.C. or state capitol who's standing in defense of transgender ideology is standing for nonsense. And we're here to bring the truth to them.